Hi, everybody. It's Monday, May 15th. So, welcome to Live Chats with Maggie and Buddy. I'm Maggie.
And I'm Bunny.
Hello, everybody. So, yesterday, depending where you are in our great world, here in Canada, it was Mother's Day.
Mhm.
So, what better topic could we talk about than something along the lines of mothers? So, we've decided that today we're going to talk about myths and expectations of motherhood
Mhm.
because there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of expectations, and somewhere in between is what happens to us as mothers.
For sure, yeah, and it's different for all of
yesterday
us, yeah.
I yesterday I seen a post and I shared it on my Facebook, and it says this: being a mother is learning about strengths that you didn't know you had and dealing with fears that you never knew existed.
Ugh,
And for me, that I posted that because that was kind of my thoughts yesterday about being a mother, because my children are now adults. So I have a different myth and expectation.
yeah, yep,
But it's true. It's we go into it not knowing that there's going to be fears, not knowing that we have all the strengths that we're going to need to parent. Oh my
yeah.
goodness, if I knew the things that I had to do as a mother when I became a mother, I probably wouldn't have become a mother. And those fears that you don't even know exist, because you don't think about the fears of parenting when you're going to become a parent.
Oh, and they change all the time. Like, that's the whole thing with every new step, like, I know, of course, when you bring home that new baby and all you do is you check on them every, every 20 minutes or whatever, you wanna make sure that they're okay, but, and then that lasts for a short period of time, and then you start to realize, the fear subsides and it goes away, but at every developmental stage, the first time you let them ride their bike, the first time you let them walk to the store by themselves, the first time they're on a sleepover, the first, like, every all of those things,
Yeah.
and it's like a new fear gets kind of piled up on top of that, and, yeah, it does take strength too, right? So
Yeah, it sure does. And it's like I was talking to somebody yesterday and I said, not everybody has this happy Mother's Day in quotation marks,
right.
because, there's mothers who haven't had a happy road. There's mothers who have lost children
Mhm,
through death or estrangement or something. There's women who can't become mothers.
mhm.
That brings on a whole different emotion. And there's just not one way to explain that holiday of yesterday called Mother's Day,
Yeah,
because it's so different. And I think it's as different as there are numbers of human beings in the world.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and even, like, when we talk about expectations, um, there are expectations that are put upon us by society, by, you know, what we see in movies or TV shows or even commercials where, you see this child presenting flowers or chocolates or some kind of present, saying happy Mother's Day, doing all those things. I know in my case, my youngest son, I don't even think he knew it was Mother's Day yesterday, right? He's 20 years old, and I called him because I was sitting there having a little bit of a poor me party, a pity party for myself, going like, he never even said happy Mother's Day. So I called him up and I said, "Hey, it's Mother's Day. Do you want to say happy Mother's Day?" And he said, "Happy Mother's Day." And I said, "Okay, love you. Bye." And he said, "Love you too. Bye." And hung up the phone. And, like, instead of sitting there and being sad and going through the whole day going, "Oh, he didn't even say happy Mother's Day to me," that I erase that.
Right.
I told myself that is the story that I'm telling myself to, like, make myself sad, but happiness was more important. And if I wanted to hear him say happy Mother's Day, then just ask him if he wants to say it. I know I would have
Yeah.
been okay if he didn't say it. Like, I still would have been okay, but I probably would have teased him and made a little joke. But And then on the other hand, my oldest son, came to me on Thursday and said, "Hey, I want to take you out for breakfast for Mother's Day," and it shocked me, but in a good
Yeah.
way. Like it was in a good way, and then the daughter of my heart, his girlfriend, asked me to go out with her last night because they were, some coworkers, and they were taking their moms out too. So those
Yeah.
things, like things that I could have expectations, which in both ways, those expectations were actually like both over met and met in like through me saying yes and through
Yeah.
just allowing things to happen. And and in the past, it's yes, as kids grow, especially in school, when they make gifts from the teachers, but then at some point that stops, right?
Yeah.
And so that doesn't happen anymore. And it's like I actually saw somebody on TikTok who said that they were doing that. They got this idea to be like they were as a kid, and they hand painted a card for their mom, and they made a little macaroni necklace. And they did, and just imagine what you could do.
Yeah.
Like even me at 47 years old, I could have done that for my mom. My mom would have thought that was the most amazing, incredible thing, because it would have brought her back to those ideas
Yeah.
of what it was like, and remembering those times when I was a kid, and we would have had a nice little laugh and a joke about that. And hopefully she's not watching, because I might do that next year.
Yeah. Because the truth of it is, as mothers, this whole holiday, it's not about the commercialism of it. It's
Right.
not about getting a gift, although it's lovely to get
Yeah.
gifts. It's not about that, because people can give a gift and not really give a gift.
Yes.
It's, for me personally, it's more about the acknowledgement of the day, the
Mhm.
acknowledgement of me,
Right.
that I mean something to your life.
Right.
As my children, I mean something to your life. And that's where sometimes too, as you were talking, we get caught up in those expectations, the
Yep.
ones that we put on in our own head,
Hmm.
that, I'm not going to be happy on Mother's Day if I don't get this, or
Right.
if I don't get this, or if it
This
doesn't
doesn't
turn out
happen.
the way
Yeah.
I think it should.
Yeah. Yeah. If this
Oh,
doesn't
my
happen,
dog's gonna start barking.
that's okay. It's Connor. Yeah.
So, those expectations sometimes are put on us by society, but sometimes they're put on us ourselves. Because, if I don't get the relationship or have the relationship with my children that my friends do,
Hmm.
then I'm saying it's not good enough, or my
Right.
brain, my human head. And that's something that for me this year, I've really been working on a lot,
Hmm.
is to acknowledge and to see when I'm not telling myself the truth.
Okay.
And, when I'm putting expectations on myself that aren't real, that are just kind of my ego head.
Yeah.
And learning, and I've said this sentence to you before, and you're going to laugh when you hear me say it, learning to be grateful for what I do have, instead of thinking about all the things I don't have.
Yeah.
Because in our society, it's very easy to compare
Hmm.
what we don't have, instead of looking at all the wonderful things that we do have.
For sure.
And, Mother's Day is no different in that respect, that, we have to do that.
Well, I think in Mother's Day, in some times it puts a bigger spotlight on it, even on those
Yeah.
days, because um, for me, I was having a discussion with a friend, and I said, well, what's the difference between tomorrow compared to today or Monday? Like it in some cases, when you are, estranged from your child, or when you're having difficulties, or when you're having the lack of expectation, like you're not meeting those expectations, that is a big day. That is something that's
Yeah.
spotlighted, and it can be all of the hurt and pain that you feel for the rest of the year can be focused on that one day. But
Yeah.
it really isn't any different than the day before or the next day. It is just a time that, this is where all the focus is put on that one day. And so I think that that's why sometimes some people do feel like the commercialization of certain holidays or days
Yeah.
gets in the way of that. And I
Yeah.
know that, yes, while I can say that, Mother's Day is important, making sure that I said Happy Mother's Day to my mom yesterday, right? I
Yeah.
did happen. And even though, I tell her or show her that I love her in other ways and other days, that day I couldn't go without saying that to her. Now, that being said, for me, I know that if we talk about strengths and fears, I also talk very much about how being a mother is both at the same time the most rewarding and the hardest thing that I have
Yeah.
ever done in my life. And it's one of those things where before I had kids, I never could have imagined my life with them. And once
Yeah.
they came along, I could never imagine my life without them. So
Yeah.
it's such a big change. And I was actually talking um I was talking about how the whole idea that when you think that you're going to be okay to be a mom, you think you're ready to be a mom, you're like, I have babysat all of these kids, I've done all this stuff. I raised my younger siblings, whatever the case may be. Having that child come into your home and you are now the number one provider for this person, and not just in like making sure they're safe and fed and everything, but actually in the development of who they
Yeah.
become. And I think part of the hardest stuff is doing such a good job with them that they no longer need you, and then not knowing what to do with your
When they no longer need you.
yeah. Not knowing what to do with yourself when that happens. When you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, uh, now what?"
And you and I have had that conversation before too,
Yes.
and I've had that conversation with my own children at times. And I've said, I guess I must have been a really good mother if you don't need me.
Yeah.
Because
But
I taught you to not need me. And now that you're an adult and you don't need me, it's like, oh, what did
but
I do?
yeah, because all of a sudden you're like, "What about me? Why don't
Yeah.
and yeah,
But you have to reframe it for
right.
yourself and go, I did an amazing job
Yes.
because they're doing so well in life, even without me.
Yeah.
And that's what we want when we're parenting.
It
We want our children to be able to survive without us. I remember when my kids were little, I used to say to them all the time, if I can get you to 18 years old and you're still alive, I did a good job.
yeah,
And, that's what we want. We want to grow good, productive human beings.
yeah,
But when we do that, sometimes we expect something different of them
right.
instead
Yeah,
of who they are,
yeah.
and then there's also the other part of it that, lots of people have lost mothers and can't say Happy Mother's Day to
Mhm.
their mother.
Yeah,
And that changes the perspective of the day
for sure.
because you may be happy in celebrating your own motherhood while grieving the loss of your own mother, and especially if it was fresh.
For sure. Yeah.
So, there's so many different myths and expectations that go along with that word. It's not just a one day out of the year.
It's
It's
no, it's just a big focus on that one day. That's what happens.
yeah,
And
and does that focus on that one day talk about what it really is?
right.
Because, you know, being a mother isn't really about getting flowers or a
Yeah.
macaroni necklace.
Yeah. It's true.
No,
It's
it's
true.
it's not at all what that one day is. It's the 364 other days.
Yeah, for sure. And even, it is funny. There are a couple of things that I think about when I think about mothers. Is the first one, the saying of a mom is the one person who could write an autobiography and talk about herself last, which, you know, how true
Yep.
is that? And the second thing is all of the jokes and it's jokes because there is underlying truth in most jokes. There is, that's why it's funny. How many there's actually, I think there's even I don't know if it's a movie, or I think it was a movie or TV show or something, where the kids didn't message their mom or call their mom enough, so the moms went to their house like, knock knock, I'm moving in for a week because you don't call me enough, you don't talk to me enough. And even commercials that are like, call your mother, like. And that's the thing, I think that's a running theme between moms, is that we do
Yeah.
want to know that our kids are okay, we want to know that they're fine. And right now I'm actually in the process of dealing with one of my children who is leaving the nest for the first time. And so I'm dealing with that kind of stuff, and there are fears with it. There's also excitement
Absolutely.
because I'm excited for him. And I do think for me, I have a robin who laid some eggs right outside my front door. And I did think that was very fitting that right at the same time that is happening, where I'm going to watch another mother who's going to kick her kids out of the nest in the most loving way, because she's going to do it for their own benefit, and I'm going
Yeah.
to see that, and that's going to happen right at the same time that I am also experiencing that. And I do think I'm
Yeah.
actually grateful for that, to watch that with the universe. So
Yeah. And I think that's so cool. And it is quite fitting.
yeah,
And it's also one of those synchronicities of life.
absolutely.
It's not by accident that that bird has put a nest right outside your door. It's so
Yeah,
that you can see the synchronicities in it, and so that
yeah.
you can be reminded that this day was coming
And it was a process
from
of life.
the day that you gave birth to your son. One
Yeah,
day, whether it was go away to college or go somewhere,
yeah,
one day he was going to leave home.
yeah, yeah,
And it was coming, and it's the synchronicities of that to let you know that it's okay, you're not alone. And that's kind of the same thing that I was feeling in my heart for people yesterday.
yeah.
If you're a grieving mom, you're not alone.
Right,
There's lots of people out there who are feeling that same pain, and just know that you're not alone. For
right.
those estranged parents that you don't have the dreams that you had hoped for, you're not alone either, because there's all kinds of other moms who are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
There's many people out there who had vastly different experiences yesterday. And
Mhm.
whatever yours was, just know that you're okay.
It was okay. Yeah.
You're okay. And today is a brand new day. And just be you and be happy, and let go of the expectations and the myths, and just be you.
Yes.
You're not defined by what you're called.
For sure. For sure. Labels, right? I also do want to remind, even because for me personally, I had some challenges when my children were really young. Um, it wasn't always easy, and motherhood isn't always easy. And I want moms out there too to know that, what the ones who are right in the trenches right now, what
Yeah.
the ones that are, having to do all of the things to take care of you. It's okay to sometimes not like that.
Yeah.
It's okay to not like every moment. You don't have to like every moment. I mean, I know when I was a kid, or not when I was a kid, when my kids were little, people would say, well, it's going to be fast. You're going to miss this when they're older. And that was the worst thing I wanted to hear in that moment, because they weren't hearing what I was dealing with at that time. So I wanted to let people to know that it is okay to not be okay with it, to have those moments where you're like,
Yeah.
I'm not okay, this is hard. And because it is hard, there are some
Yeah.
many times where it is so hard, and just do the best that you can in every moment. That's the biggest thing that I wanted to say right now.
Yeah. And as always, if you want to talk to us about myths or expectations about motherhood, find us. You know how to reach us. Bunny will tell you again.
Well, of course, you can always find us on our Facebook page, where we do go live every Monday afternoon. We don't have a time, but it's any time in the afternoon. And then those will turn into podcasts the Sunday after at 11 a.m., wherever you can find your podcasts. And then also going to our website, www.ataboveandbeyond.com, and emailing us at ataboveandbeyond@gmail.com. So that's it for today.
So for Monday, May 15th, the day after Mother's Day, everybody have a great day.
Yep.
We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.